So Dylan Raiola, the 2024 number one overall player consensus on three, Rivals, all the 247, all of it. He's number one quarterback in the country, number one player in the country out of the state of Arizona. Joe, there's been a lot of talk. So speaking of Ohio State, he was committed to Ohio State and he decommitted. It's over.
He's not going there.
It's over. He's going to Nebraska. You want to know how I know?
Oh, I know how you know.
How?
His dad was an All-American center there. But here's the funny thing. Here's the really funny thing about it.
Donovan Raiola is the primary recruiter for him.
Right. So that's what I was just going to bring up is that you pull up the 24/7 Sports and it always tells you who was the coach that was recruiting him. And I talked about this with Matt Sims on the first team show when we broke this down is like, you kind of have a leg up when the guy who was throwing you the football around when you were a little kid is the guy who's recruiting you.
Correct.
He's going to Nebraska. He needs to go to Nebraska. I would love it if he went to Nebraska.
Well, he doesn't need to go to Nebraska. Nebraska needs him to go there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me just mention this. And look, I have no ties to Dylan Raiola whatsoever. I've never talked to him. I've never talked to his camp. I don't know the kid. Don't go to Nebraska until you see what happens this season. Okay? Because Joe, they've been such a dumpster fire that now maybe if they get that kid in there, can they get him an NIL deal? Who knows? Maybe it is what Nebraska needs to start changing the guard. And I can make the argument he is what they need to change the guard and to start getting back to their winning ways. But, man, it's just so hard for me to get on this Nebraska train, okay, that Nebraska's back when, Joe, they've been so bad for so long, right? Like, I mean, can we just for once wait for them to win some football games before we start asking if they're back? Like, at least at minimum.
They're worse in Texas when it comes to that, by the way.
That's my point. And look, their fans are the most loyal fans on the face of the earth.
Very pleasant, too.
Very pleasant. And, we're getting in a debate, and they were like, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, sir. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, have you ever been on Twitter before?
Well, Matt Sims talked about how his brother, Chris, who played at Texas, he brought up on the show that he was stunned. Chris was stunned by running out onto the field, and the fans were like, good luck, Chris. Have a good game. And it's jarring how polite the fans are. But honestly, like, I root for Nebraska to be better than Texas. Like, they are more deserving of them being successful than a team like Texas. But I get where you're coming from, that they were only a dumpster fire, though, under Frost, because under Pelini, they were at least competitive.
I agree with that. I agree. And they fired Pelini. They got rid of Pelini. It was so dumb. So dumb.
So stupid.
Now, who was before Frost, though? It wasn't Pelini.
I need to look this up.
Yes, it wasn't Pelini. Mm-mm.
I could have sworn that it was Pelini.
No, it wasn't Pelini. It was somebody else.
It was Mike Riley for 2 years.
Yeah, Mike Riley.
He was 12 and 14 in those 2 years.
So here's my thing about Nebraska. They have been so bad in their front office of the athletic department that you're gonna, and I'm not a Matt Rule fan. I'm not a big Matt Rule guy. But if they can get the number one overall player in the country, okay, Joey's going to have to go in there and start immediately. They're going to have to get him weapons. Now, I will say this. Now with NIL being more prevalent, they can get back to winning ways. They got it. Like, so for people who don't know in our industry, the number one message boards on 247 and on 3 from a money perspective, guess where they're out of?
Nebraska.
Yes. Most of them, one website, if I'm not mistaken, I was told that had like 75,000 subscribers. Okay. That is
ridiculous.
Insane. They are so loyal. They are just top notch. And I hope that they do get back because it's better when Nebraska's back. Is Dylan Raiola is he the guy that we're going to put our hat on to bring him back? They need so much more than just him. Would it be a step in the great direction? Yes. Is Donovan his brother or cousin?
The
recruiter.
He is his uncle.
Okay, so I mean, a blood uncle, first uncle, brother's brother.
Yes.
Yes. So I mean, do I think he's going to Nebraska? Yes. Is it a massive pull for them? Yes. All of that stuff. Okay, but I do worry for the kid going there because I mean, Joe, the best production that they've had offensively have come from transfers from the SEC. You had Trey Palmer this year, who, by the way, shout out to Trey Palmer. We coached him, and my cousin coached him in high school baseball.
That's great.
He ran a 4.33. Joe, he was below average at LSU in the SEC. He goes to Nebraska, and he's their superstar. They're going to have to continue to get better on the offensive side of the ball. Weapons, offensive line. Is Matt Rule even doing that, in your opinion?
I think that Matt Rule can be the guy, and it's one of the things that we talked about on this show when that hire was made, and we did like a full deep dive on him. I'm optimistic because he is a guy who turns programs around. And the programs that he led weren't blue blood programs. They weren't big premier programs like Nebraska. And it's kind of funny you fail your way into a position like this, too.
Well, that's true, too. That's true. But my question would be, do any of these kids, I mean, how old are you, 24?
Yes.
Do you ever remember Nebraska being relevant?
I remember under Bo Pelini when they were, again, competitive and they were a 9-win bowl team that would always occasionally shock somebody.
Sue and Prince Amukamara. I mean, they had some dudes defense. Now, I'll tell you this, man. Bo had some dudes on that defense now.
He did, and I think that is really good proof that if you have the right recruiter in place, which is Matt Rule, that they can be that talented on the defensive side of the football. I just think that this would be great for the landscape of college football for not only Nebraska to be back, because under Rule, there's not a debate if they're going to be competitive again. I really do think it's a guarantee that they will be a good competitive program. But getting a guy like Dylan Raiola, which some people say, like, this is a Trevor Lawrence type prospect. This is a guy who steps in right away and is that impactful right away. A Bryce Young type guy that can be an immediate impact player.
Bryce Young wasn't immediate.
My point is that Young doesn't take, he's not going to take until his third year to get onto the field. This is a really, really good player. And I know that we moan about Quinn Ewers not being that good. Quinn Ewers was considered to be one of the highest ranked prospects to come out.
And he's dookie water.
Well, that's the two sides of the coin. But I think that Raiola ending up at Nebraska at a program with a fan base that is passionate is so big for the Midwest and for that football territory. They need someone like Dylan Raiola to step in and be the face of the Big Ten. And I really do believe that a good Nebraska team is more exciting for college football than a good Michigan team. I really do. And that's what I want.
I don't agree with that.
You don't?
Mm-mm. Give me Michigan being better than Nebraska's in the middle of, I mean, it's like the armpit of America.
Yeah, so is Michigan.
No, Michigan's got some things. I mean, dude, Michigan's
Detroit.
They're the what is it, the vehicle capital of the world? I mean, they make more vehicles than Elon Musk put, come on, man.
They got corn in Nebraska. That's exciting.
Yeah, and listen, rain makes corn and corn makes whiskey and corn makes my baby feel a little frisky. But just because it does all those things doesn't mean I want to go out to BFE Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know, man. I don't like it for the kid. I know that his uncle's there. I know that he's a legacy, and I get all that. But I think he just needs to entertain everything that he's doing. Now, I will tell you, Matt Rule, to his credit, even though it's aggravating to watch him on Twitter, he is recruiting at a much better level than Scott Frost and even Bo Pelini did. So absolutely. I think that they will win some football games, right? Like I think that they can I think that they can win and get to a place where they're an 8, 9, 10-win team, maybe. But taking that next step, does Dylan Raiola take them to that next step? I don't think that he can take them to that next step. That's just my opinion. I just don't think they have the infrastructure at the current moment with the AD's office and NIL and all that kind of stuff to be able to take that next level. Now,
But he's one of those recruits like Arch that a lot, and you already seen it. You're already seeing, yeah, you're already seeing this where there's all these articles not about Dylan Raiola, but recruits talking about Dylan Raiola. And I really think he's going to be one of those guys that just pulls a bunch of really talented kids with him to where he goes. That's like the big rallying point of why you need to get this kid to not only commit, but commit early. Because then you get him in place, you don't let him out the door, you give him as much damn money as the kid asks for. This is an investment. There are not a lot of quarterback recruits that come along like a Dylan Raiola that will pull as much attention to your program as him. So I would pay him, keep doubling whatever somebody else offers. I know that's an exaggeration, but just keep giving this kid money so he doesn't think that he wants to go somewhere else.
Is there a more aggravating coach on Twitter than Matt Rule?
I admittedly, I mean, I don't follow him. I haven't really seen him on Twitter. Why? What does he do?
He's like posting all these emojis. Now you got to go far a little ways to find it, but he like posts all these emojis, and
I kind of like that. Wait, let's see. He does a lot of retweeting.
He does a lot of retweeting. But he like always posting like these emojis, like beep boop beep boop beep boop beep, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? Look, we'll see. I mean, they do have, and Matt Rule has, changed some things around there for the better. So we'll just, I think we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm just not a massive fan of his. I've never, to be real with you, Joe, I've just never been a massive fan of his. I've always thought he was a flake a little bit. Now he's a tough guy, head coach, and maybe he can get him to play tougher. We'll have to wait and see.